Well, let's turn attention now to the environment. From devastating floods that displaced thousands to bold steps towards reducing emissions and building resilience, the country's environmental story reflects the urgency of action and the hope for a sustainable future. Esther Omopariola takes a closer look at the environmental events that shaped the year.
From the bustling streets of Lagos to the vulnerable communities in the Niger Delta, 2024 was a year of environmental highs and lows for Nigeria. This is a story of the nation's fight against climate change, natural disasters, and ecological degradation.
Floods wreaked havoc across Nigeria, affecting more than 178 local government areas. From Jigawa to Adamawa, Taraba to Bayelsa, thousands were displaced, homes were destroyed, and farmland submerged. Authorities had warned earlier in the year that 31 states were at risk, but the scale of destruction revealed the monumental task of climate adaptation.
The flood swept away my farm, leaving me with almost nothing. The situation is dire. With my farm washed away by the flood waters, we are now struggling to find food to eat.
In Borno, the collapse of the Alau Dam caused massive flooding, leading to widespread destruction and severe health risks, with thousands displaced and in urgent need of help. Governor Babagana Zulum called for urgent intervention, while Vice President Kashim Shettima described the disaster as the worst in over 30 years. He assured that the government will provide support and stressed the need for better flood control measures.
People build homes right inside waterways, thereby reducing the width of the canals. These are some of the factors that are responsible for the overflowing. But most importantly, we are witnessing rainfall, storm, that has not been seen in the recent years, up to 50, 60 years ago. So the soil has become completely saturated.
About 50 trucks of rice are on their way to Maiduguri. They have started loading at their depot, and more aids will come from federal establishments, organizations, and private sector.
Even Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, wasn't spared. Torrential rain submerged major districts, sparking concerns about the city's vulnerability as a low-lying coastal hub. For many, it was a harsh reminder of the worsening effects of climate change.
The reality is we're going to be getting a lot more rain. This is just the reality that humanity has to face. This is due to the anthropogenic effect that we're having on the environment, specifically the pollution that's been going up into the atmosphere that has been causing extra heating of the earth that is now causing more evaporation. And of course, you have more evaporation, you're going to have more water falling. So the reality is there's going to be a lot more rain. In fact, some people don't even call it rainfall. They say that what we're having now is rain bombs, where you will have rain that would normally fall over a period of 1 week. It can fall just in 1 day.
Despite the challenges, Lagos made strides in tackling climate change. At its 10th annual International Climate Change Summit, the state unveiled plans to cut carbon emissions and enhance climate resilience. Sustainable waste management initiatives and advocacy campaigns gained traction, with schools and communities playing a vital role in promoting eco-friendly practices.
We must accelerate our effort to mobilize climate finance and channel it towards projects that prioritize local adaptation initiatives. This means investing in infrastructure.
Meanwhile, the Niger Delta continued to grapple with ecological devastation. Oil spills devastated marine ecosystems and livelihoods, prompting communities to demand stricter regulations and greater accountability from oil companies.
Those who go after crayfish and the special swamp area fish that they get every year, they will deny. The people of Ogboimbre will be denied that this year.
And you know, as people in the riverine area, in this area, it is farm work and fish farming. Now this is September. These are only means of livelihood. So these things are affected. So the truth of the matter is, what we need now is a cleanup.
On the global stage, Nigeria's participation in the COP29 Climate Summit in Azerbaijan highlighted its commitment to clean energy and sustainability. However, the summit left developing nations like Nigeria dissatisfied, citing inadequate financial commitments from developed countries.
This is an insult to what the convention says. Should I remind us of what the convention says? That it noted that developed countries had the largest share of historical and current global emissions. This might be 1994, but it's still very current till now. It also said that the developed countries will take the lead, and this lead is climate finance. That the developing country is saying that it's taking the lead with $300 billion till 2035 is a joke.
As we step into 2025, the path ahead demands collective action. From implementing climate-smart solutions at home to advocating for equitable support globally, Nigeria's fight against environmental crisis is far from over. Yet, with sustained effort, innovation and resilience, the nation can chart a future where both its people and planet thrive. Esther Omopariola, TVC News.
Now joining me for more discussions is Executive Director, Development Initiative, Philip Jackwell. Thank you so much for joining us. He joins us virtually.
Happy New Year, and thank you for inviting me.
So whilst we'll await the World Meteorological Organization's Global Climate Change 2024 report in March, I believe that is, but for Nigeria, for 2024, how would you describe the climate impact for Nigeria?
Well, I'll say 2024 was a mixed bag because we will have to marry climate change and the environment. And your report, the preceding report, has given a very, very good background. On the climate front, of course, Nigeria continued to witness unusually heavy rains. And then poorly managed response to climate change. And that, of course, was witnessed in places like Borno, Maiduguri, where you had the devastating dam collapse, which affected millions of people. But across the country, there was also, the massive rainfall and displacements. Unfortunately, the state governments were not prepared. Agencies like NIMED did their work and have been improving year in, year out when they always do these announcements that we are going to have heavy rain. So since 2012, the rains have been increasing. And like your report noted, you could have rains that will ideally fall for a month, falling for just one day, and then goes with this kind of devastations. So we didn't do too well in relation to that. Your report also mentioned the oil impacts in the Niger Delta. The oil impacts still continue to escalate. We had pollutions across different states in the region, Ibeno, in Akwa Ibom, where you had the oil spill affecting about 27 communities. Bayelsa still remain the epicenter of pollutions. Different communities, Sagbama, Kolokoma, Nembe. As we speak, oil spills are happening every day in that region. And then, unfortunately, we may also need to mention this. Nigeria was listed among the countries that flare the most, the gas flaring. The report for 2023 came out in 2024, and I don't think much has changed between then and now. And that is not a very, very good rating. Also, and I think this is worth mentioning, and I don't think it's also something very, very positive. Towards the end of the year, 2024, we got a report that the divestment process that Shell and some other corporations in the Niger Delta were pursuing They wanted to leave their toxic assets, move away to the deep offshore. There's the rumored nod given to Newbrick for that process to continue. And for communities in Niger Delta, that's bad news because what communities have been advocating for is that if divestment must take place, the companies must take responsibility for their spills.
And Mr. Jackpo, that would bring me to the very question that I want to ask you on two fronts. One of them, generally the environment, and then issue of flooding, because we saw what happened in Lagos, in Borno. While in the dry season now, what sort of preparations should state governments, begin to make? And in terms of the environment, I know that the Damage and Loss Fund, as well as reparations for communities where you have this spill, was part of the conversation for COP29. What should also be done? How do we continue that conversation?
Well, I think the first, in terms of preparations for the flood, you prepare for the flood when it is the dry season, and so the state government should not wait anymore. This is when they should, look at issues of building, shelters on high ground. This is when they should start sensitizing communities in the coastline land areas on the dangers of staying in those places when floods happen. And then all these are very, very simple things, clearing the waterways in preparation for when the rains will start. But we didn't even mention also that, because we talked about the Niger Delta, yes, but also in the north, we've also started seeing the impacts of mining, in different communities. We have different mine collapse in the last 12 months. There was mine collapse in Niger State. There was mine collapse in Taraba, Adamawa border. There was mine collapse in Plateau State. So illegal mining is also creating a lot of problem in that part of the country. In Nasarawa State is happening. So I will not even want to delve too much on the issue of climate finance, because COP29 was a massive failure. It was so uninspiring. And of course, that COP held in an oil-producing country, Azerbaijan. So what would we expect from such a gathering? Nothing. There was nothing tangible. It was so lackluster. Nothing came out from there.
All right.
So let us look at the local initiatives. This is what we must start doing. We must start putting in place policies, initiatives that will save our people, so that when these things start happening, the flooding and the rest of them, people do not feel the full weight of it. Those are the kind of things we should be talking about in 2025.
I mean, the conversation continues. We're in the dry season. I hope hopefully somebody's listening and begin to do something about it. Thank you so much for your time, as always. Executive Director, Renevlin Development Initiative, Philip Jackpo.
Thank you for having me.